Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, what I'm going to talk about came up because two different people had left messages about getting defrauded in a watch purchase. The first one had become a victim of what I had described in another video. Basically, what happened, he met these guys, he was selling his watch, he went to meet them, they had to leave town, I don't know where, but and so they said, look, we'll buy your watch. So the guy brought his watch, and then they said, we'll wire you the money. And so on his phone or iPad or whatever he could see the money had been sent to his account. Thank the guys, they left town. Well, shortly thereafter, he found out that there were insufficient funds for the wire that was sent. So this was something, like I said, we had talked about before. So this is something I think to watch out for, where you have someone who says, well, they can only meet for a very short period of time. When money is wired, wait until it clears your bank. In other words, going into your account. Now, it can come up and show that it's there, but it's usually in a state of what they consider to be pending. If somebody's got to leave town or they have to force some kind of deal, don't take it. I had a guy who I think he was in Germany, I'm not sure. And he was trying to get me to buy this watch, and he had to leave on vacation the next day. I passed on that one. So if there's anything funny about a deal, a friend of mine years ago had a thing. He said somebody's sock squeaked. I never did know what that means, but I know intuitively there's something wrong. You don't know what it is. Pass on it. Trust me, it's not worth it. Okay, the other person had something a little different. In fact, it was a lot different. He ordered a watch through Chrono 24. Now, recently I had ordered a watch through Chrono 24. Worked out great. But here's what happened, and in a way I can see why. He ordered this watch from this guy, and the way Chrono 24 works is that you give them the money, they put it into an escrow, and then somebody will send the watch to you. And when you get it, if it's a watch that you wanted, they'll release the funds. Well, that's a great way to do things. It's good for the seller and good for the buyer. Okay, well, what happened was that by the time that he got around to, or he looked at it closely, it wasn't the watch. It was not as described. It was pretty well banged up. It was described as a mint condition 1, and really it was closer to a condition 3. And so he thought, well, he'll contact the guy. Guy was gone. He was in the wind. So once he got his money, he disappeared. Asked Chrono 24, could they do anything about it? They couldn't. What could they do? So it's a kind of thing, is something that I thought, well, this is very, very secure. But then I thought about it. The watch that I got was better than, I had dealt with a dealer who had been recommended, a dealer in Switzerland. So when I got my watch and finally got around to looking at it, the money had already been sent. Now, I did take my own sweet time. I got the package in the morning, and I think by the afternoon it was gone. I had waited for a number of things that I had to get done before I could take a look at the watch. And fortunately for me, everything was gold. It really was a great watch. It is a great watch. Okay, but this kind of thing can happen. And here's about the only thing I can suggest is this, is that if you're going through Chrono 24 or a similar arrangement where some money is in escrow, look at the watch as soon as you can. And if there's anything wrong with it, contact Chrono 24 right away and say, "Hey, listen, hold up the funds. This is not the watch that I wanted," and or that had been described and promised and so forth. Now, the what I want to talk about today is related to that. In 2009, there was an article in the Foundation of High Horology Journal, and the title of it was Anti-Counterfeiting, Pulling Out All the Stop to Protect Edition. And they had a picture of a fake Panerai movement. Now, their target, of course, were counterfeiters, people who were making phony, baloney Swiss watches. Now, it was interesting that they had a Panerai watch, because the Panerai watches, a lot of them had it then and still do to some extent, movements by somebody else. And to me, it's very easy to make a fake Panerai, like this particular one right here, a Luminor Marina logo. Nice watch. And if I were going to counterfeit it, and I'm no watchmaker, all I'd do is I'd run down and I'd get a OP2 caliber. And an OP2 caliber is an interesting one, because what we find out when we take a look at it, we find out that it's an ETA 6497-1, right? So if we look at watchbase.com, by the way, is a place online where you can find all of the different bases for the movements. What we do is that we find out that the Panerai OP2 is in fact an ET 6497-1. Now this becomes important for the collector, and it's something that we have to do. We really have to find out about it. And I wish the FHH, the Foundation of High Horology, would say, look guys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to tell everybody what we have. And some companies do it. For example, now the Panerai with the ETA, it's actually called the ETA Unitas 6497-1. That was selling for $5,000. Now you can get a watch with exactly the same movement for $472. And what's more, you can get it from a watch company. Through the back, they have a little view window in the back. And this is it's called a Steinhardt Nav B 47. This watch has, this is a picture from their website. I enlarged the prices and the name of the movement so they're able to see, but all that information is there. First of all, in the biggest letters they have, the price as 440 plus VAT. Now what that means, 440 euro. What that means is that there's a tax called a value-added tax in Europe, and it's about 19 cents. It's pretty hefty. And so it's added to everything. Now, without the VAT, you'd pay 378 euro and 15 cents. And that amounts to $472. So if you go to Panerai, you see a $5,000 watch, and it's got the same exact movement, you're going to wonder about it, but they call it the OP2. Now, there is a difference. The one on the Panerai is the version of the Unitas 6497-1 that has been tested by COSC. In other words, it's a certified, it's chronometer certified movement. Okay, but that's like a $4,500 difference, all right, just for the COSC. What they do, they take the same movement, and they do the testing and the setting of it to a higher standard. Now, if you took one of these out and you went through the same process, you could do the same thing. Okay, so this is one of the things that we run into, is that we have watch companies that are putting in relatively cheap movements and not telling us about them, or they give them different names. Now, here's the thing. Now, is that Panerai has some really good movements of their own. And this one is called the P5000 caliber, and it's 8 days. It also is at a slower rate, which is when you look at the very best movements, you find out that they're usually lower than what is considered the standard of 4 hertz. They're more likely to be 3 hertz, and this is what this one is. So it's, not only are they, and five, instead of $5,000, it's 6,000, but you're getting an in-house movement and you're getting one. It's a good movement. Now, it's not COSC. This particular one's not COSC certified either. Okay, but it is an 8-day, wind it up, and it's good for 8 days. So they can do it. It's not that they don't do it. Is that you have to find the one. They should make it easy. I mean, if we trusted these guys, at least, let me put it this way, if I trusted them, and it's not just Panerai, it's a lot of them. We'll take a look at some other ones. For example, Cartier had so many ETAs, Solitas, and God knows what running their watches that in 2015, when they came out with the 1847 caliber, that was an in-house caliber, they quietly slipped them in these different watches that they were selling. Now, they had the Cartier clay was introduced with fanfare that, yes, this was an in-house movement. But the other ones, like I think there were some tanks and there was some, I forgot what the other ones were, probably Balloon Blues and some other ones that they put this in. But they didn't say anything. In other words, what they would have had to is said, well, we we have to take out these cheap movements that you've been buying from us. We're going to put in our in-house movements. The next one I want to talk about, this is a watch I bought, and it's Elaron, and it's called the Grand Osmior Mécanique Extra Plat, which means extra thin, and it's really a nice thin watch. It's got a ton of gold on it. Now, this was from about 2001 in that time period, and gold was $200 an ounce then, and they could put a lot more on and still do quite well with their bottom line. Today, gold is $1,300 an ounce. Then it was around $200. Okay, so it's got a lot of gold. You can see from the picture it has blued hands, beautiful guillot shape, really a nice dial on it. Okay, so what's inside? By the way, too, it was on the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève. It was one of the finalists in the jewelry category. So why was it in the jewelry category? Well, one reason is that inside, the movement was called an Elaron 1025. It was actually a Pazou 1007. And in the 50s, in the 1950s, Elaron used that. But when you look at see those two, the red and the blue line at the top, that shows the difference. When you have a really decent watch, the movement is better fits the watch. Even more so, here you can see how the movement and the watch case are almost identical in size, and one fits the other like a glove. The same is true with this H. Moser. Not only does it fit, but it's also the same shape. So, but here when you put in a little bitty movement inside of what I think is a 42 millimeter case, it's gonna just look like what it is. They got a thin one. They got a thin movement for it, but now that's not the worst part. The worst part was that no one would tell me. The guy selling it, and there's something really interesting that they'll do. They'll say, I don't know. I'm a salesman. What do I know? I'd heard something about a Frederic Piguet. Maybe it's a Frederic Piguet. They didn't say it was a Frederic Piguet. Well, I heard Frederic Piguet. I think, oh, that's great. Well, what I did is that I got a friend up not too far from here who was a judge in the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève. So I took it up there and showed it to him, and he said, "Oh no," he said, "this is an ETA." Well, it was actually the Pazoo 7001 was developed before it became part of ETA, but after the quartz crisis, a lot of companies were in major trouble and they were bought up or sort of saved by ETA. And ETA, they could use it. Now, this was one of their better movements. It really is. And it was part of what they call the ETA Mechalin specialties. Okay, so what am I talking about this for? I'm talking about buying a watch and not getting ripped off. Well, the place to start apparently is with the watchmakers themselves. I think it's extremely important for them to say, look, this is what's in our watch. They're beginning to do that. This is very happy to see that. And also, if you go online, more and more watch companies are coming up with the manufacturer's suggested retail price. And also, too, directly selling them online. The Panerai is. Now, if they do that, they can make more money, I'll put it that way. And by doing so, more money can be spent on R&D, developing their own movements. So anyway, so it keeps going back to the same thing. You got to do your homework. You have to get good information and not rumors. There are these sort of groups that, well, do this or do that. Find out from the horse's mouth, not from guys like me who are out talking on the internet, but rather go to places where you can find specific information. Trust no one. Okay, well, let's see here. I'd like to hear your comments, what you have to say. And this is also an invitation to subscribe if you'd like. And Sunday we'll have another collection review. And until then, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.